Okay, Calum, welcome to the Times interview. Could you introduce yourself to our readers?
I'm Calum McLennan. I study ecology conservation at Lancaster, but I'm very much into the whole any natural sciences outside of uni. I just do anyway as well.
Fantastic, that's lovely. Well, I'm going to ask you about plants, of course. Going to major on plants. So, can I ask you, how did you get into plants?
I think it was just a general interest in kind of the small specialized things. Like when I was younger, it was very much first trying to find like the reptiles that aren't that common in the UK a lot of the time, and then I was like did a lot of hiking with my grandma, and you notice that there are species up there, the club mosses and all stuff like that, that you don't notice down in the valley. And I find the mountains have a lot of sort of very specific different environments that show up in like hidden crevices or calcareous flushes, and I don't know, it kind of linked. They feel more embedded in the ecosystem than the animals do sometimes, even though I'm very happy with animals too. So I kind of thinking it probably came from that, and also the fact that they don't move for me for photography reasons.
So, you're both a keen walker. Would you be a keen climber and keen photographer?
Oh, certainly. I don't tend to do rope climbing that much, of course, because that kind of limits you to one spot. But like, if I find a crag in the mountain, I'm thinking, oh man, I wonder if I can find any purple saxifrage right now.
Excellent. So, what would you say is your favourite botanical activity?
Um, I think there was. I like the way BSBI put it actually last year. They described one of my posts as adventure botany, and I was like, that's the one. um, Going out and sort of finding. I mean, I sometimes it is just going to find the rare species, but there's something that feels a bit sort of ticking a list for that. I very much just like going to the like unique environments and seeing it all together, whether it's like a montane crag or down in the temperate rainforests, or like a very specifically small environment like a tiny calcareous flush or one specific waterfall that promotes all the different bryophytes around it. It's just going out and like seeing all this stuff that we otherwise just sort of get told about in passing, whilst most people tend to talk about, you see documentaries with the African savannah, or learn lectures about agriculture or something. I like going and seeing the very raw stuff in the wild.
Okay, so plants are beautiful and fascinating and vital to the sustainability of our planet and to humankind, but they're not always given the recognition they deserve. Why do you think this is?
I think a lot of it is sort of passing down a lack of interest almost. Like if we have lecturers who would much rather be showing us their studies on elephant seals or something, then they'll do that. And of course, if plants happen to be a part of the module, they'll do it, and they'll come in with the assumption that none of their students want to really learn this, so they won't like even bother trying to make us sound interesting. They're just sort of like, okay, here's some information about plants. It does very much feel like you go into a vertebrate lecture and they'll start off saying like, look at all these cool adaptations and behaviors that we found, as though plants don't also have that. So when it comes to plant lectures, it mostly talks about specifically just how important they are and giving that as a reason to be interested, rather than just the fact that they are interesting in general, quite frankly.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a great quote that plants have to do the same things that animals do, but of course they can't run away, they can't hide, so they have to do everything pretty
Yeah.
much
I
stationary,
mean,
and so
I
they're
like that as an example of, because I'm a big fan of obviously upland species,
yes,
all the acid peat bogs and stuff like that. Therefore, they can't leave. So if they want to get nitrogen, evolve to eat animals. Like the amount of carnivorous species I've seen in the UK and the amount of people I've met who I've like pointed out a sundew on the hike, and they're like, wait, there are carnivorous plants in the UK? I didn't even know that. Because most people kind of assume it's Venus flytrap, pitcher plant,
yeah.
job done, and they're probably from like some exotic far off place. But no, we've got them here. We've even got like potentially carnivorous bryophytes, depending on how you interpret the paper.
Yes, well, that's true, and I mean there are steps on the way to evolution of carnivory, aren't there? So there's even things like teasels that have
Mm,
these great sort of water. They have these leaves clasped around the stem, and that fills with water, and then insects fall in there. And I think John Warren was saying there is a paper that shows that actually that does deliver nitrogen to
all
the
right,
plant,
that's
and
interesting.
it's not it's not a pitcher plant, but it's if you like
Like a proto-coniferous plant.
a proto. So yes, so some of it is about sort of education and just awareness, isn't it? And often these wildlife documentaries are often not so good at flagging up plants. They're very clear on the animals. Animals are always centre stage, even if a plant is involved, because of course all animals depend one way or another on plants.
Very much so. Like especially in the past, from like a cinematography's perspective, I guess you could get like a wide vista of like the migrating wildebeest or something, or you could get like a zoom in of a flower. Whereas more recently, especially with like very good macro lenses and like the whole idea of like having very stable rigs, so you can film over like a long period of time and get time lapses or whatever. You're suddenly seeing that they are moving, they are behaving, and they are fighting.
So did you find that element of the Green Planet? Do you think that's a good way to communicate?
I very much. I was. I mean, a lot of the stuff on Green Planet was like it was nothing like new. It wasn't like, oh man, that's so like new, fascinating. But for a general watcher, because that's what these documentaries are for. They're there to promote nature to like a layperson. And I thought that was the perfect way to do it, because it was basically a plant documentary, but done like an animal documentary. Like they showed it in a way that I feel like anyone could find it fascinating in, and that's how it should be, because plants are fascinating and they should be fascinating to everybody. It's just that the people either don't bother or struggle to sort of communicate it a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yes, in some ways it's more difficult to be enthused by plants, because you've got to have the sort of window into the fact that they have these amazing adaptations that aren't so immediately obvious as an animal doing what it does, because you can hear it, you can see it, you can see it doing its hunting, you can see it's doing its hiding, it's whatever it's doing. Whereas plants, the time lapse certainly does help open that window.
Even without time lapse though, like there's a lot of stuff that's really interesting that people just don't know because they don't look for. Like I every year I go and look at the hazel trees, and every year I'm like, the fact that there's the male catkins and the little female flowers, and it's that they're separate. I hadn't thought about that for so long, and then I was like, that's actually crazy that they have so many different modes of reproduction within just the plant groups. You've got some that have it all in one flower, some are different flowers on the same plant, some have separate male and female plants, and it's like all the different reasons why those adaptations may have occurred, and the different it just makes them all more beautiful as well. We get one tree, we can get pretty catkins and pretty little pink flowers at the same time.
Absolutely.
Some of them are just really bizarre in a fashion. I mean, especially orchids with their very strange mechanisms of like placing the pollen on different species and completely tricking them into thinking that they've got nectar, or that they're just a sexual partner to a bee or something. It's crazy. And then there's the whole thing about like speciation via polyploidy and stuff like that, where novel species like the Aran white beams that just sort of created themselves out of hybridizing with themselves. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much fascination there, which and I guess it's our job as botanists to communicate this to as many people as we can. Botany and plant science students are often in the minority at university. How can we promote plants in universities and with students?
I mean, I guess we've kind of mentioned like stuff that's relevant to university, but I do think a lot of things are very relevant at like an A level and GCSE level, because I remember I mean, to be fair, most of ecology wasn't respected back then. Everyone doing GCSE and A-level biology where I was, it was medicine, which is, that's very noble. But when they got to the ecology section of the course, and everybody moaned. And then they got to the plant section of the ecology section, everyone was like, we don't want to be here. And the teachers, I don't know. To be fair, the teaching can be alright if the teacher's interesting. But I think the course itself is written so as to not invoke interest in plants. I don't know.
No. I think this is actually quite an important thread here, because as you say, we've talked a bit about university level, but if you don't,
I think it's more important pre-university. It's very hard to sort of show someone like something that's completely new when they've already decided their interest a lot at that point. That everyone's already decided that they want to study mammals, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned two things there. You said the teachers, and then you said the course.
Almost complain about teachers' lack of interest, but I've had teachers before who are they're more exacerbated by the course they're having to teach, because like I said, it sounds as though they would um, be much more passionate at teaching if the course wasn't so rigid, and it's a lot more free at university. But I did find GCSE and A level, like some of my teachers were like, and now we have to do this bit, and it's going to sound bad because this is the stuff we have to teach you.
I think you've hit a real key point there. And all the teachers that I've spoken to, it's not that many, but I talked to the trainee teachers who are biology and also chemistry and physics here, and I talked to them about plants, and they are interested.
Mm.
I mean, there is this idea that all sort of biology teachers are zoologists and they hate plants, or they find that, or they think they're going to be boring. And I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And I think even
Especially
if they
from the
are
biochem
zoologists,
side of things, a lot of biochemistry is. I mean, plants have some much more interesting biochemistry than animals a lot of the time. The whole
absolutely.
like photosynthetic pathways and all, of course, another ring because they can't move. The adaptations they need to be are often chemical, so they've got way more chemical adaptations that are sometimes really bizarre and often very useful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've been involved on the team of Botanical University Challenge, the Lancaster team.
Mm.
Tell me, how did you find Botanical University Challenge 2023?
I mean, we lost pretty quickly, but I very much enjoy the quiz. It's always great fun. Because like I get to hang out in a room with my fellow team members who I don't meet up that much often because, I mean, they're all doing their PhDs, whatever, and locked in a basement with their biochemistry stuff or something. So it's finally like a rare occasion to meet up with some of the other botany interesting people in the thing, and then a lot of the time the questions are just really great fun, and also the little jokes you put at the start. And I also just like it in between rounds when, like Leaf, for example, was talking about things, and they were all the talks that the presenters have just in the middle of it. They were always very interesting, and the questions sort of provoked them talking as well, even if we answered it wrong.
No, well, you're spot on. I mean, we started this up just to show that there was interest. There was still interest in plants from students. Despite
Mm.
the sort of the idea that botany was dead, and we very much proved that that's not the case. So we've got always and this year 25 teams of enthusiasts,
Mm.
but fun and friendly is what we go for, and the role of the chairs, exactly as you say, to add interest and chat. And actually, to be fair, you were quickly out in the sense that you didn't get to the quarterfinals, but then there were 25 teams and only 8. In fact, we got 9.
Yeah, true.
So, and actually, as I recall, the number of points that you fell short of wasn't massive.
Oh no, it
So,
wasn't.
so
I think
anyway,
sometimes it's a matter of specialization as well.
yeah.
It was kind of we had me who I was sort of designed to answer Leaf's questions basically, all of like the UK taxonomy stuff, and then we had a lot of biochem people and also someone quite interested in sort of botany and relating to food and poisons and stuff like that.
Mm,
So when it comes to other sides of it, we're just not as quite well versed, which doesn't that just shows how broad of
yeah,
a
exactly.
subject it is really, and how many
Yeah,
different things there are to learn.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I
And
remember there was one in the quiz last year about a particular piece of art with botany, and none of us knew it. But I just found it really interesting that like that is a thing you can ask questions in is like art inspired botany or
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's one of the many fascinating things about plants, that there are so many areas where the plant, and that's what we try to do with the questions, just to show it's not just about here's the plant. Certainly, it's not just about identify this plant. Though I'm a field botanist and I do like to have those in there, but it's the role of plants in the ecosystem. It's the role
Mm.
of plants with humans. It's art, as you say, music. I did in the very first Botanical University Challenge. I put some questions about music because I'm also interested in music. They didn't go down that well, um, so we've never really done that. But there are so many areas, as you say, poisons, medicines, history.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
whole of written
Oh, I
history.
very much like a lot of stories have like um a lot of myths, I guess, end up with people turning into plants, and that's like with the
Yeah,
name we end up with today. Obviously, there's hyacinth and hyacinthus, and
Narcissus.
Narcissus, those stories.
Yeah.
But from like those are just the ones that have come into Latin and English use. In different languages, especially like Slavic ones, they have their own names for the plants that come from their own myths for the plants that are completely different. Like I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's like Kupalo Damavic or something. Is what in English we call wood cowwheat, which is a really boring name. But in these Slavic stories, it's named because the plants were supposedly created after like a tragic story of two siblings who, like, I guess pity from the gods, got turned into this beautiful flower with the two colours to represent both of them, which is why wood cowwheat is part yellow, part purple.
Absolutely fantastic. I love that. I love that, and I also like the idea, as you say, that it doesn't really matter if you can't answer the questions, because if you can learn something, and if you get the stories, because plants are nothing if they're not all about stories, which can be biological stories, ecological stories, or history, or as you say, mythology. That's great, because that's part of the narrative of plants. Okay, thanks. I've been talking with you recently about this idea, because Botanical University Challenge is basically this fun, friendly quiz, but we're increasingly trying to develop ways of connecting plant-aware and plant science botany students across the countries. Let's not forget we had 3 teams from Ireland this year, and you have this idea of a sort of a botany chat platform using, I think, Discord. Tell us a bit about that.
So, I mean, basically, I originally saw you guys advertising for some sort of publicity thing, and I've been trying to figure out how to sort of, I don't know, connect botanists a bit better, or at least find other people in future, because I've always been really bad at that. I've just sort of been doing botany on my own, and all the other people in the hiking club are looking at me thinking, what's that guy looking at? It's very difficult to get out there, because I understand that, like, we can be quite, like, few and far between. Even within one uni, it's hard to find, like, who else is interested. There's no, like, platform to go to. Obviously, we have, like, the more obviously platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. But then if like once you found people on there, it's harder to then, like, form a single community to talk about on it, which I then thought I'd suggest Discord to you guys. It's obviously it's I guess it's slightly more modern than some of the ones like Facebook, and therefore not as well used by a lot of people. But like once you start using it, it's like everything's there. You kind of we've made one so far where you can, like, chat about biology in one channel, and show your photos in another channel, and talk about the competition, the BUC, in another channel. I think it's just a good platform to bring like-minded people together to talk about whatever their interests are in botany. We've opened it to a few people so far, and so far we've had people talking about how they like the ethnobotany and biochemistry, things like that. It's been good fun. It's also like a place where you can share your stories to other people that are interested in botany, rather than sort of talking at people who clearly don't care.
No, it's fantastic, and I've been very excited about this idea, because one of the things we did after Botanical University Challenge, I think it was the first one that was online, which obviously brought us more teams, and we were thinking, we did a questionnaire, and the feedback was that the students who'd taken part really felt a little bit disconnected from the botanical community, and we were asking, well, how could we sort this out? Obviously, live events like our Botany Festival in Nottingham in July will be great, but online, of course, as we've seen with the number of teams now
because when we go home after something like that, or like when we all log off after doing the quiz together, that's then it. We just sort of wait for the next email. We're waiting.
I'm so delighted to hear that, and I'm a 20th century guy, so I'm kind of not so up with some of these things, but I can see the potential for something like Discord. I'm really excited.
I can understand if it doesn't work out, it can be quite daunting, and also, like, maybe other people don't have the same interest in trying to connect this way as me. But I think hopefully there's enough people who care that we can make a little botany platform online.
Absolutely, I think that's without doubt, and also really excited, looking forward to seeing as many of our Botanical University Challenge teams at the first Botanical University Challenge Botany Festival in Nottingham in early July. I've got one last question for you, and it's this: if Botanical University Challenge was a plant, what would it be?
Probably. I guess this isn't like species specific, but it's because I've obviously been trying to promote this platform and stuff. I'm thinking about all about in terms of like connectedness. So you know how like in like the redwood forest, for example, sometimes like some plants that have like no chlorophyll at all and are completely white because of some mutation can actually survive and grow for a bit because they're all connected and they all pass nutrients and they have the fungi to help them as well. So it's not just plants, which is I guess another significant thing to point out. I'd see it as one of those trees, the trying to connect the roots.
I love that idea, and totally not what I expected. Well, that's the kind of question where you're not expecting anything. It's just how do you see Botanical University Challenge and plants in general? So
that's how I see the challenge anyway, as like an opportunity to connect with other botanists, because it's not just like an opportunity to show off botany knowledge. That's a toxic way to think about it. It's very much. I mean, obviously, it's a competitive. That's just fun, but it's a way to sort of have botany pals.
Have botany what?
Pals.
Yep, absolutely, and that's a fantastic way to end. Calum, it's been absolutely delightful talking to you. I could go on and on and on. We've got plenty to from the transcription to write on into the Times, but I'm also looking forward to editing this, and so that people can watch the whole interview.
And let me know what photos I need to send you then.
Absolutely will do. But the basic thing is what your main theme, which is kind of looking for, particularly in the uplands, going out looking for plants, whatever. But just send us some thoughts, and we can.
I'll send a few. I've got like a very small number of photos of like me looking at the plants, because most of them are photos by me of the plant. So it's like just like I wasn't even there. Maybe I should do more selfies with plants. There's one guy who's really into bryology who always takes selfies with the mosses, and I think I should start doing that.
I think about it. Why not? Because you don't have to share them if you don't want to. But actually, for this thing, it's actually quite important that we see you with the plants and in the landscape as well.
When I went looking for the purple saxifrage on Ingleborough last year, I took it as an opportunity to like set up my camera off in a distance and put a timer on it, so it could like show me looking at the moss, the purple saxifrage.
Maybe that's the one.
Maybe I can find some from the other hikers of like from me in the distance, like off the path somewhere.
Try it, because we've got room for a couple of photos. That would be nice.
Yeah.
And I can also, if we get a few, I can also add them to the end of the video as stills.
I'll see what I can find.
Thanks a lot, Calum. Thank you so much. All the best.
Oh, you too.
Bye.
See ya.